So today what I'm going to talk about is emotions, and they can also be called feelings, or maybe even energies or chemical reactions. We'll be talking about feeling patterns, which are emotional holding patterns, discovering your emotional holding patterns, managing feelings, providing an environment for emotional stability, what to do with feelings. So what I'm offering today is a context that I hope will be helpful for you in dealing with your emotions. If you don't connect with something that I say or it doesn't apply, don't think that you're in denial or there's something wrong with you. It may not be for you. In terms of emotions, there's all kinds of levels and there's all kinds of ways to handle them. There's not like one absolute way to deal with any of this. So I'll be talking about patterns, I'll be talking about stands, I'll be talking about different issues. And don't make your mind try to categorize these things and get them perfect, because I may misuse a word and call something a pattern one time and a stand one time. That's not really the important thing. It's the amount of aha-ness that you can get from what's said, or the amount of freedom that you can get. So I know that everything that I say is false some of the time, because depending on which paradigm I use, it's going to be false part of the time. So I'm asking your mind to look for the time that this is actually true. When could this be applicable? And so that what that does is that keeps your mind in the conversation so that you don't go off thinking about that one time or those times when this is not useful information, because it's truly not useful information at all times for everything. There's no absolute answer to anything. And so that's why the truth seems to be, and answers and solutions seem to be conundrums, because it's very, very situational. It has to do with where we are in our consciousness. It's whether we're going into healing or we're coming out of compassion. So the wording changes in the context through which it's offered. So first, let's discover what your emotional holding pattern is. When I say emotional holding pattern, that is almost self-explanatory. It's your favorite bad feeling. It's the thing that you have most often. So first, I'm going to do two exercises, and the first one I'll just ask you straight out. What is your favorite bad feeling? And of course, you're on mute, so you can't answer that. But is it anger? Are you often irritated? You use a lot of sarcasm. Is your favorite bad feeling anger? If it is, then you're dealing with a power issue. That means that you feel a tremendous amount of powerlessness in your life. And that's how you deal with it, through anger, irritation. Are you sad more often? Is that your favorite bad feeling? That's that something is missing. If someone is doing something wrong to me. It's the lack of sweetness in life. And if you're sad most of the time, what you're really dealing with is the lack of pleasure. And often when people have this particular emotional holding pattern, what you'll find that they do is they try to get pleasure through substances. And those substances are often alcohol, drugs, all kinds of substances. So if you're dealing with a sadness emotional holding pattern, then you're then your emotional holding pattern has to do with pleasure. Okay, fear. Is your favorite bad feeling fear? That means that you're afraid about everything, and when something comes up or you're going to do something different, then you will see whether or not you gauge everything through the eyes of fear. That means that you'll try to protect yourself from something happening to you. And if your favorite bad feeling is fear, then you're dealing with survival issues. Now, I realize that we change. Our favorite bad feeling will change from time to time, but generally we'll have our favorite bad feeling or our favorite emotional holding pattern. So if you haven't figured out what your favorite emotional holding pattern is from that exercise, I'm going to give you another way to look at that. Think about you're in a car, and you're driving on the freeway, and you have just enough time to make an important meeting with a friend. This is somebody you haven't seen for 5 years. You're excited about seeing them, and you encounter a slowdown. Now, you were running pretty thin with time anyway, but right now you're beginning to feel something. Just notice what it is, and you realize that you've left your cell phone at home. Somehow you had it right beside you when you were walking out the door. You put it down to pick something up. You don't have it. You're riding down the road, and as you look ahead, you can see the cars piled up, and you realize that they're stopped. And so your car comes to a standstill, and you're thinking about not being able to see that friend, and your friend is waiting for you in a restaurant. What comes up for you? What feeling would you have? I know you're on mute, but just think about this internally. What is your reaction? What is your emotional response? Both of these things from the first exercise and the second exercise should be the same. You should have figured out by now what your emotional holding pattern is. And so what is a pattern? A pattern is really let me see, I've got that written out. What it is a repetitive form of unconscious behavior. So it's something that repeats itself, but it's unconscious. It's not something that you're aware of. It's something that continues on and on. And there are lots of different kind of patterns, and I'm going to talk about some emotional holding patterns, but I'm not going to talk about all of them because there's just so many different categories. I will in a few weeks be talking about relationship patterns and healing those, and I'll be getting more specifically into patterns, but there's denial patterns, compliance patterns, low self-esteem patterns, control patterns, and I'm not going to go specifically into those, but let's take a look at this emotional holding pattern and how we keep it in place. I'm going to say that we take a stand, and generally we'll take one or the other stand. The first stand that we take with an emotional holding pattern is a victim. That is that I feel sorry for myself. Someone has done something wrong to me. They haven't given me enough attention. They haven't given me enough love. They don't understand who I am. I can never really be anybody because the list of circumstances, whatever they are, or things are just not right with me. It's poor me. And I feel victimized by life. So that's one stand. The other stand that I could take is being the victimizer, and that's the persecutor, and that is you're the problem, and I'm going to defend myself by attacking you, and I'm going to get you in my life. I'm going to be looking out of the corner of my eyes, hyper-vigilant always to be sure that I'm protected, and the way I'm going to protect myself, if I see anything that looks like it might get me, then I'm going to jump on you first. So it's I'll get you, I'll show you. And so let's look at some particular patterns that we have in terms of these emotional stands that we take. The first one is the revenge pattern, and this is such a popular pattern. It's getting even with your parent through your mate, your partner, or your child. And this is a pattern that the persecutor takes. And that is whatever it was when I was little, I didn't get what it was, and I haven't healed my relationship with my parent, and I'm going to take it out on you because I put the face of my parent on everybody. And, of course, I don't know any of this is true. This is all hidden from my awareness. But it's again, I'll get you, I'll show you. If you think I'm getting you now, you ought to see what I can do. Another pattern which is very, very popular, and you'll see this particularly in politics, is a sibling rivalry problem. And that is when you feel like you have to compete. You have to be better than the other person, or you're not as good as the other person. And there's a lot of jealousy that occurs around the sibling rivalry pattern. So what happens to us when we don't get our emotional food? And that is that we start to feel bored. And so what we'll do is it will create a situation that will feed our emotional holding pattern. I mean, have you ever been with somebody and you're just talking to them and all of a sudden they go ballistic? It's because in their mind they've created a scenario and taken what you've said and they've turned it around and they've attacked it. In other words, they've made your thing or whatever you're doing up to fit that emotional holding pattern that they need to have. They need that emotional food. So here's some dramas that help feed that pattern. And this is, oh boy, this one is one that everybody will recognize, and that's the hurry drama. It's urgency. We're addicted to hurry up drama. This is one that I know that I have. And the way that I can get my hurry drama going is, for example, I had the call going today, and I knew that I had to print out my papers. And so what do? I'm in the bathroom, and I decide that I need to pluck out the little hair under my chin that I've been feeling up for 2 or 3 days. Well, I could do that at any time, but this is the way the subconscious mind sets it up so that at the last minute I'll be printing my notes off and in a hurry mode so that it can feed my emotional needs. And these are not very healthy emotional needs, but they're the needs, existence needs. I am my emotions. If I don't have them the way they should be, then I'm not here. I don't exist. Fortunately, I didn't spend a lot of time with the hair. I got it right away, and I just noticed that pattern and the hurry pattern, and I said, I'm not going to do it, and I walked away, and I printed my notes out in plenty of time. But I've watched that happen over and over again when I'm ready to leave the house, and so I'll decide to get water, and I'll decide to do something else, and then I'll just do this one little thing, and it'll just push me so that I have to hurry for a meeting. And it's very unconscious, repetitive behavior. So another drama is the perfect drama, and that is that I have to look perfect, that my body has to be perfect, that my hair has to be perfect, that my house has to be perfect. And then as we begin to heal, we get a little bit smarter. The perfectionism externally we don't worry about so much, but it's the internal perfection, and that is that I'm perfectly loving, that I never get upset, that I meditate every day, or I do a certain kind of, I'm very compassionate. I never get angry. That's the perfect drama that we run. Another drama is the martyr drama, and that is regardless of what happens or how anybody talks to me, or I'll create these burdens that aren't really there, and I'll put them on top of myself, and then I'll have to hold it in. And it takes everything I've got to hold this in. I'm going to be so good in the face of all of the stuff that's on top of me. I'm just going to be a wonderful person because I'm going to take it and just keep piling it on and be a martyr. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to hold that in. Another drama is the right-wrong drama. This is another famous drama. This happened Saturday. Oh, no, I remember it was Thursday. Oh, no, it was Saturday. I remember surely it's Saturday because I moved my toe up and down on Saturday. I remember specifically. We keep going up around and around in this. Or you said, he said, I said, we said, and trying to recount something from 10 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago. It's right and wrong drama. And the other one, another one that's very popular, that's money drama, and that is to base upsets around money, having enough money, not knowing what to do with money, getting upset about filling out tax forms, getting upset about politics, everything that has to do with money, watching the stock market, reading everything in the news that has to do with money. And we have lots of people are riveted around money, and their lives are circle around this money drama. So I mentioned before what happens when we don't have drama. Sometimes what we do is that we juice up our own drama and make something dramatic. Or another way we can not be bored, and that is to have secondhand drama. And so what it means to have secondhand drama is to get involved in someone else's life, and their lives are a mess. So we're wanting to fix them. And we love it because we can take that savior position in their lives. They can look up to us, and we can help them out, and it makes us feel good about ourselves. Now, remember, there's actually a healthy side to doing this, but I'm talking about when we're on the addictive side. I'm talking about when this is feeding a chemical reaction. Everything I say has an opposite thing that is true. It has a healthy aspect and component. I'm talking about the components in life that are not healthy for us, that are emotional sabotage moves. So the next thing I want to talk about is emotional triggers. So the biggest triggers that we encounter are in relationships. That's where our triggers come from. A lot of people say, if I'm just by myself, I'm cool. But, but when we get involved with someone, then the trigger goes off. And here are the two biggest triggers, and they are feeling abandoned or feeling trapped. So here are some of the thoughts that help hold these emotions in place, because we have these. They're actually more than thoughts. They're decisions, and they're decisions that are made when we're very, very young, and possibly, in some cases, people say from conception on, that these are borrowed feelings that we take on from our parents, and then we make decisions that are based pre-verbally. But this is, if we could speak these out, and they later become these words, something's wrong with me. I don't have the right to exist. If people really knew me, they wouldn't like me. But these people, if people knew me, they wouldn't like me. They get into relationships. These are the people that tell all the bad stuff on the front end, because they figure if they tell all the bad stuff on the front end and the person doesn't leave, then they're okay. They don't want to get in the relationship and then they have all this bad stuff come out. So they just try to tell everybody all the bad stuff in the beginning. So another belief or decision that we've made that holds these patterns into place, these triggers into place, is I'm bad. I'm not okay. I don't have the right to exist. We're so used to having these feelings that we create them over and over again, and we look for evidence that they exist. So we can interpret evidence that we see in our lives any way we want to. Yeah, there's an old saying, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, if you have an emotional stand, an emotional holding pattern, then you will find evidence in your external world that proves what you believe to be true. So we believe it and then we see it. Most people think we see it and then we believe it, but we actually believe it and then we see it. I want to talk about 3 levels of emotions. They're surface emotions. And these emotions are when our feelings flare up quickly, and we can often just on the spot, we can redecide. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. No. It's like, what's going on? And we can stop ourselves mentally and just choose out of those. Those are surface level 1. Now, if you're unconscious, you're not noticing level 1 emotions and you're just at the effect of those. But when we go conscious, we begin to we can catch those level 1 emotions and we can deal with them quite effectively and efficiently through our thoughts. We can just say, I don't have to go there. Not doing that anymore. This is nuts. And, why I'm even reacting like this? This is some old pain from childhood. Forget it. Okay, so level 2. Level 2 is a little bit more problematic because in a level 2 emotion, what we do is we touch our personal wounds, whatever those personal wounds are. And the feeling is much more intense and longer. And in level 2, and we'll be talking about some things to help deal with level 2 emotions today. But in level 2, this is where therapy can be useful. Therapy is certainly not the end all and be all, but it can be useful. And then after we get through healing that, then we throw away the technique. But on this level 2, that's got a lot more intensity. Now, level 3, I've never really heard. I have had the experience of level 3 emotions, and I've not heard anyone else that uses. Actually, no, I heard another speaker talk about this, and I was very excited because she didn't use the term level 3, but because it's like, okay, somebody else has had this experience. My even labeling this is because I had the direct experience of this level. I didn't know that it existed in emotions, but looking back on it, my first experience was in 1981 when I was doing the EST training. And in 1981, what we were asked to do was to feel fear. And so everybody was feeling fear and they were screaming, and I got into a zone of fear that was way beyond anything that had to do with me. It was an all-pervasive, deep fear, and I realized that I had opened the door to the collective unconsciousness of fear. It was the collective wound and the collective consciousness of everyone on the planet. The past and present feelings, and perhaps future feelings if there is no time. And it was just absolutely wild, and fortunately I was in the space and the place that I could move out of that, but whatever that was, it was huge, and it was way beyond anything that I could have healed in therapy or level 2, because it was all pervasive. But going even deeper, I had another experience, and this is maybe, I don't know, 6-8 years ago, and that was when I went into a level 3. But I went into the level 3 of it could be hell. It was bigger than fear. It was all the collective negative feelings that you can imagine in every complex set of ways, and I was there. I don't know if it was like Dante's Inferno. I would look at the pictures of that and hear him talking about Inferno. It felt like hell. Robin Williams movie, when he did What Dreams May Come, and he was floating around and with all these dead bodies and in this just terrible place. This was the kind of space that it was. And I tried everything that I could. When I was there, I was there as me, but I was an expanded consciousness, and it was quite bad wouldn't be the word. It was excruciatingly, complexly horrible. And so I stayed with it, and I realized that regardless of where I was, that there was a consciousness there that was bigger than that, and I just stayed with it. And finally, at some point, I just began to permeate the thought of I am into my consciousness, and I moved out of that space. And when I came back, actually, Jim was with me. I was in bed. It was at night, and Jim is not the kind of person that stays in bed. He's a pop out of, get out of bed kind of person. But when I came out of this experience, or whatever it was, I was so shaken that he looked at me, and he laid in bed and held me for an hour. And we said very little about what was going on, but I've never known him. I mean, that was to stay in bed like that. It just would, for no reason. I mean, he held me. He knew that I needed him. And so this is a level 3. It's touching the collective feeling nature of humankind. Sometimes people get to this, I think, level 3 through drugs, and that's how they can go crazy and kill themselves. It's not anything recommended. I didn't try to get there. It just so happened I did. I guess maybe through having done so much meditation and consciousness work and so forth, I ended up there. But I did end up in a better place. The next night, the next day, I think through meditation, I had the experience of having some dark form that kind of crawled on my head and kind of was crawling into me, and it seemed like a shadow form, and I just looked at it and I said, come on in, whatever I've got you can have, because there's not anything of me that you can destroy. There's nothing but consciousness, and there's nothing but life and light, and that was what I was. And so whatever they thought that they could destroy, it's like you can't steal the identity of someone, and they couldn't steal my identity. And that's the last time I've had any one of those kinds of painful experiences, and I wouldn't recommend it, but I just wanted to mention that because it does happen. So how do we heal? what do we do? And the word heal may not be the right word, and the word deal might not be the right word. I'm just using words because emotions are something that are nonverbal, but I'm going to have to use communication and verbal means to talk about this. So why would we want to manage our emotions or heal our emotions? I want to say we don't do this. Don't do this to be a better you. It's not to become perfect. So I can't be a better me. I'm not wanting to manage my emotions so I can be a better me. Being a better me is like a fish saying, "Oh, I'm going to be a better fish." Well, you can't be a better fish. I mean, a fish is a fish is a fish. You can't take that away. And who we are, we can't take that away. We are who we are. We're searching for that constantly, but that's really kind of crazy because we are who we are and we are what we are, and we can't take that away. So we do this really for emotional emancipation. We do it so that we can be the creators of our experience and not a puppet to our past. And I'll say at some level, any of the techniques or things that I'm going to talk about are not needed. Because when you're not experienced in levels of upset, then you don't need things to help you deal with levels of upset. That's what religion does. That's what therapy does. It's unfortunate that some healers do that, and that is always thinking that we have to hold on to the tools or the techniques as if they are the things that are sacred rather than the direct experience of life. Everything that I mention and all the tools that we have in consciousness, whether it's using mantra, whatever it is, these are dispensable tools of consciousness. These are things that we only use to help us in the moment. And when they're not needed anymore, we don't need to drag them around. The thing that liberated us becomes baggage if we keep dragging our tools around. So the first thing that we do is that if we are, and this is certainly not any secret or this is not any news, but if we take care of ourselves, then we create a setting in which we don't get upset as much. We just don't. And how we can do this, ongoing practices help give us that solid emotional foundation. Many of you, if you're daily meditators, what happens is if you don't meditate, you'll say, "Oh my gosh, I don't feel as good today." And you notice that when you do meditate, you're not as on a daily basis that you're not as reactive as if when you don't. Or if you do a daily breathwork practice, you're not as reactive. Or if you do a practice of inquiry throughout the day, and inquiry is to always call yourself into consciousness and is to ask yourself a question. It's the practice of asking yourself a question. What motivates me? For example, if I get really upset or angry or sad, it's like, do I want to continue this? Why am I doing this? That's inquiry, constantly going into the moment when we have our emotional realities and just seeing if we can change them at a level one. If they're just surface and they're level one, we can change it before it might get deeper into level two. Because we can take a level one feeling, which can really be changed, and dig it right into a level two, into that wound, because we can start getting excited and dramatic about it and go to level two. And that's what we have done as drama kings and queens. We've done that. But as we began to wake up, we decided not to do that so much. So where does it start? Let's start right at the morning when we get up. See what feeling is going on. Is the rush on? When you get up in the morning, is that rush on? Remember when I talked about how that hurry-up drama can keep us in our emotional stand? Is the rush on? So we can go into inquiry if the rush is going on and say, what is this feeding? And it's, of course, feeding our need for drama. So what can we do? Well, first find out whatever is going on, whatever we've got going on first thing in the morning emotionally, is find out where it's affecting your body. If it's up in the heart area, what you might do is tap on your heart. I know that the emotional freedom technique is a great technique for you working with emotions and you're using your whole body. But if you want a quickie, just if it's at the heart area, tap on your heart. See green energy going in your heart, and that's the heart chakra right in the center of the chest. Or suppose it's in your belly, right above your navel, then you might want to rub that area. Just rub it in a circle, or it's in the lower part of your abdomen. Then rub your tummy and just get that energy moving. One of my old favorites that I've been doing for years and years, I don't do it all the time, but I do it frequently, and that is just a very simple chakra meditation. And I'll just run you through it, and that is to go through each chakra and give an affirmation which is appropriate to that chakra. For example, in the base chakra, at the base of the spine, the first chakra, which is red, just see red energy going through there and breathe through there and say, I am safe. And then in the second chakra, which is orange, which is right above in the abdomen, that's the one that deals with pleasure. And to breathe in and say, it's safe to feel pleasure. Life is pleasurable. And then move to the solar plexus. The color for that is yellow. And an affirmative thought for that, to move that energy, is, I am powerful. And as you move through each one of the chakras, just see the energy moving in that area. And then move to the heart and see a green light, and that's in the center of the chest, and just say, I am love. And continue moving up the body and see the throat chakra and speak, I am enough. I am the truth. The affirmation that helps you with the throat chakra. And the third eye, indigo, which is right in the center of the head and the forehead. And the affirmation is, I am wise, and I feel and follow my hunches. And then the crown chakra located right above the head, the thought is, the color is violet, and I am connected to my source. So the reason I'm mentioning that, just to going through the chakras, is because that can be done so quickly. Just in 2 or 3 minutes, you can go through that, and it gets the mind centered, and it gets the energy moving. When we have emotions that are trapped or they're stagnant, then we start, our feeling levels go up. So we want to get that energy moving. Oddly enough, when our energy is moving through the chakras, then we have more emotional stabilization. So what do you do when you're in the midst? So those are some things we can do to keep ourselves and sustain ourselves emotionally, so that, and prevent having these emotional spurts. Because what we're doing is we're lowering the volume of our need to have emotional upsets by doing those practices. But what do we do when we're in the midst of an upset? Well, now, if you can do this, you can't do this everywhere you are, but if you're at home and you have that, or you're in a motel room, then what I suggest that you do is change states. Take a shower. That helps get the energy moving. It helps. It's like a baptism. And also change your clothes. Put on a different outfit. Because we get stuck in these emotional holding places, and making a change can liberate you. Now, this is different from, the old thing that if you locate yourself in a different place, that you're going to change your life. I'm just talking about, in this instant, making a physiological change, such as taking a shower and changing clothes. I also believe that there's energy held in clothes, and this energy that we have from emotions is bigger than just our body. So consider doing that. Aromatherapy I find amazing. Whether you actually have any real aromatherapy stuff that you bought from the store, or whether you use your own, you can take cinnamon, if you have cinnamon in your spice cabinet, or you can cut a lemon. Lemon is very energizing. It's very fresh. Or cut an orange. But if you smell a fragrance of flower, then that also helps. It's like a balm on the emotions. Very powerful working with aromas if you're having an upset. You're having an upset, go for a walk. Get your body moving. Another thing to do is self-massage so that you can get that energy moving not only through the major chakras in your body, but through the minor chakras all through the body, through the hands, the feet, the arms. Another one is another thing that you can do, and this you can do if you're in an office or anywhere you are, and that is counting your breath. And that's simply doing a breath exercise, breathing in to the count of 3 and exhaling to the count of 4. Very simple. Very simple. I know I'm going somewhat fast with these things, but this call will be available up within a week or so up on YouTube as an audio, so you'll be able to listen to this if you'd like to get down to specifics. What do you do when you're in the middle of the upset? Now, this is if you're alone. The sound E is a very relaxing sound, and I suggest if you use the sound E that when you do it that you have that low E. It's like E, as opposed to E, which is up in the throat, but go E, very down in the body. E. And this serves a couple of purposes. And the E, the vibration of E itself is relaxing, but also this tends to make you force on the out breath, because when we're upset, what we tend to do is we tend to make our inhales longer than our exhales, and that actually stoves up our energy more than that it stiffens us up. It stiffens up the cell in our body so that we can do these longer exhales, and like you're doing the sound, and that helps move the energy and it helps the cell begin to stabilize. Another sound that's very helpful is the sound ha. And if you notice, if you do ha in ha right after the other, like ha, 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 sequentially, and you notice what's happening, what you're doing is that you're moving your diaphragm. Ha, 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 ha. So it's affecting the organs of your body. It's sending out a sound in your body. And I use the ha often when I'm in traffic and I'm feeling afraid. And this is from whether it's really a dangerous situation or not. I've noticed that there are a lot of other people that feel squirrely in traffic, not only myself, especially when you're getting in a large city like Houston. And so I like to use the sound ha, 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 ha. I've done that many times when I'm driving in the rain, I'm exiting off the freeway, I'm in lots of traffic, and so I'll just use that because I don't want my body to just, with these emotions, it's like to hold these emotions in. So what can we do when we get upset? We can do some things mentally in terms of self-talk. And this is one of my favorite things to say to me when I have an emotional upset, and that is, this is just a chemical reaction. It won't last. I can get through this. This is not who I am. Because too often when we have an emotional upset, we think it's never going to end. It's always going to be this way. It's the mind. The mind just goes blank, as if that time will never end, but it will end. And when I tell myself, it's like, yeah, okay, right. And this is a chemical reaction. There's not anything here that's going to kill me right now. I'm safe. It's just okay. Now, whenever we're having an upset, what do? I would say, get conscious about what's going on and don't make what you're feeling wrong. In other words, don't say, oh my gosh, as enlightened as you are, you shouldn't be feeling this way. Or what's wrong with me? I should be so much further along than this. Or this is bad. This is wrong. I need to get rid of this right away. This is going to harm me in some way. No, just don't make it wrong. Don't put yourself down. That's the super ego that comes on top of the ego to crash and bash us. What to do when we have intense emotions? Don't make any important decisions. And when I'm talking intense emotions on this one, I'm talking about whether you're having good feelings or bad feelings. When you meet someone and you fall in love in those first few weeks or months, don't make any big decisions. Don't. It's a temporary feeling state. When you are really angry or upset, don't make a big decision. Don't do it. It's You'll regret it. It'll change, or you'll make decisions that the impact lasts for a long time. And because when you make a decision through deep emotions, you're making it through. It's like being insane. You don't have the ability to make a decision at that point. So we need to be wise enough to understand our emotions so that we're not at the effect of those, and we can use our mind to say, okay, let's take a little time out. We're not going to make any decisions or rush into anything right now. Or even maybe an upset about things. We can take time out from our upset. What to do when those emotions hit? Don't hurt yourself. Just with that, because people do. They try to commit suicide. They do all kinds of things. They overeat. They do things, and just don't hurt yourself. That may be easier said than done, but sometimes if you're doing something and you can hear the voice when someone else said, don't hurt yourself, this is the voice I want you to remember. That I want you to think of yourself going sometimes into the future, and you feel like you want to do something to hurt yourself, whether that is to sabotage yourself in a relationship, or to eat something that you know is going to make you feel really bad, or to drink something, or actually to mutilate yourself or hurt yourself. I want you to hear my voice, and I want you to hear that voice saying, stop. Don't hurt yourself. And I also want you to hear this. I want you to hear, I love you. And this is going to be okay. This too will pass. So get that set in your mind so that when this time comes up, sometimes in the future, you can hear my voice. And it's the powerful voice for love in this situation in your life. Okay, what to do when you have deep emotions and you're on the spot with them? Don't take it out on others. Just don't take it out on others. Own your feelings. Don't say, don't think, oh, they're making me feel that. They're doing this to me. Own your feelings. And also, if you can, get yourself where you need to go to take care of yourself. For example, if you have an upset and you're with a client, or you're at work and you're having an upset, don't act out. You can take yourself and excuse yourself and go to the bathroom, or get yourself somewhere where you can handle it and just work it through or breathe it out. But if you're right in the middle of this upset and there's a tremendous amount of energy, you may be tempted to spew that out, volcano it out on someone else. And you will pay for that if you do it. You'll pay for that. You'll have lost clients. You'll have lost contracts. You'll have breakups in your relationship. And not only that, this is where you really pay for that kind of thing. You pay for it in your own mind, because when you are acting out against and on other people, you will feel guilty and you will punish yourself. So when you attempt to hurt other people and you put them down and you do those things, you will get yourself back. So that's why it's a really good idea not to ever be out to get somebody, because you will get yourself. So I just want to mention carried feelings. And I talked about before, own your own feelings and don't act out to other people. And this, on carried feelings. Carried feelings are feelings that we carry of other people who don't deal with their feelings. What you might find is that when you go around certain people, that you always come up with a certain feeling. Maybe it's the feeling of sadness or anger or irritation. Notice that, and you can actually set an internal boundary when you're around someone that's feeling like that, and just go, because we go into this emotional entrainment with people. But we can, if we're conscious, we don't have to do that. We can just say, I understand this person has an emotional holding pattern. I don't have to be in that. I don't have to be loyal to them by feeling the same thing they feel. I'm okay, and I can stand my ground and be here and feel okay. Now, this accomplishes a couple of things. If I'm here and I'm feeling okay, then what is happening is that I'm saving myself. But it's very possible when I'm feeling okay that they might let go of their emotional holding pattern temporarily. Now, and another aspect of carried emotions is that we might have a prevalent emotional holding pattern that really is not ours. It was our parents' holding pattern. And we just decided to take that on. And we might make some kind of decision to divorce that. I don't have to be like my parents. I'm not going to be like this. If you had an angry parent, you're probably an angry person. If you had a sad victimy parent that was your closest parent, that's probably where you are. I want to suggest that if you find yourself in an emotional holding pattern, one way to get out of it is to pretend that you are your parent that had that emotional holding pattern and write out how you feel, but be your mother or father. And just say, I am, and put your parent's name and what I'm feeling, such and such. Just write that out. And then just take that, burn it, blow it away, and say, this is not me, this is them. So you stay in your center and you invoke an emotional boundary. I am not you and I can be independent of your emotions. And so finally what I want to talk about is going beyond emotions. We've been talking about dealing directly with emotions and how to maybe prevent going into an emotional fit. But what about going beyond emotions? There's a point in which we can go beyond this traditional ways of handling emotions. We generally have to learn these traditional methods before we can somewhat transcend them. And I don't know that we ever fully transcend them. Most of even the most enlightened people, when I hear about the stories in their lives, they have problems and upsets and emotional ups and downs. And so I don't know that we ever move past not being able to use some of the ABCs of emotions, but we do. There are times, and many, many times, where we can transcend and move into a different way with our emotions. So we do that with dealing with the emotional energy as an observer, not as a feeler. We're not going to feel directly what's going on. And that's what therapy does a lot, and that's feel and deal. I'm going to feel this, I'm going to deal with this. And that's really good kind of in the beginning of working with our emotions, but there comes a point where you can't just feel and deal with every situation that went on in your life. You'd be going on forever. So what we can do is we can drop the story of whenever something's going on and I have this intense emotion, I'm going to drop the story of what they did to me, or the story of how I'm not okay, or how this situation wasn't fair. Just drop that story completely. And then go into the body and find out where in the body you can feel the upset. And then experience that upset as a sensation. For example, my chest is tight. My stomach is fluttering. Or even there may be other things like my muscles are twitching. My eyes are dry. But be curious as to what the sensations in the body are. Remember, it's not going to be accessed as a feeling. We're used to accessing these things as emotions and feelings. But now we're going to access this as a curious observer and not go into this as if there's any kind of, we're not going to label it. We're not going to label this wrong. We're not going to label I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm jealous. No labeling, but just the direct experience, the sensation in the body with no labels and no stories. And go about it as a curiosity. What does this feel like in my body, sensation-wise? What am I sensing? What am I feeling? So you may have been doing that right now in that pause. Just want to make the point that we stop the story and go into our body and experience that feeling or sensation. What happens for me often is that when I do that, there is a charge on whatever emotion that I'm having, and whatever that charge is, it's something that I avoid and I'm wanting to get away from. But when I experience this as a sensation, somehow it undoes a construct in my mind that makes this emotion wrong, and whatever that charge was that I was dealing with, it was based on the fact that this is wrong and I'm trying to avoid it or do something about it. It dissipates, it disappears. And so I'm left there with some sensations in my body, but the charge goes away. So I just ask you to experiment with this, being present with your emotions as an observer of the sensations in your body by dropping the story and sensing directly what it feels like. Not using the head. If there's something going on in the stomach, actually being in the stomach in that sensation and not using the head to figure out what that's about. I'll be gone for 2 weeks. I'm going to Charleston, South Carolina. My daughter's getting married, and there's a party that I'm going to, and I'll be traveling. So I'll be back on May the 2nd. I'll be talking about relationship patterns. I made mention of those in the beginning, some of the patterns that we have, such as the denial patterns, self-esteem patterns, compliance pattern, control patterns, parental patterns, and we'll be talking about those and healing those in the context of relationships. And then I'll be out another couple of weeks because I'll actually be going to my daughter's wedding, so I'm excited about those. So in conclusion, there are 3 levels of emotions. We talked about how to deal with those emotions, the different levels in different ways. We can do preventive maintenance once we're caught in an emotion. But once we're caught in emotion, then I gave different ideas about how you can deal with those. We can make change. We can take a shower. We can breathe. We can get the energy moving. We can go for a walk. We can establish internal boundaries. We can do work with our relationships with carried feelings and divorce ourselves from this contact that we have, this false contact we have with others' feelings when they're not our own feelings. We can talk to ourselves. We can change our mind on the spot. And we can also move beyond emotions and dealing with emotions therapeutically when we move to just directly experiencing the emotion as sensations in the body. So I want to open it up and see if there's any comments or questions or answers. Jim, if you'll take the mute button off, then everyone should be unmuted. And is there anyone that would like make a comment or ask a question?
Yeah, and there was an awful lot of stuff there. The emotional holding pattern, I'm not sure which one is mine, probably all of them. The anger, feeling of powerlessness that could happen to me in a millisecond, and the sadness, the lack of joy, the fear, the survival issues, they're all there. I do all of them.
Yeah, we do all of them, but we usually have a favorite. That's why I called it our favorite bad feeling. It's the one we go to. I'm going to suggest yours is a sadness. That you're dealing with the sadness, the lack of pleasure, the poor me and the victim. And I know that you have had addiction problems. That's the one that addiction problems come from: drinking, drugging, all that stuff. And even though I understand you've had the other ones, I'm going to suggest it's probably your favorite emotional holding pattern.
Okay.
And mine as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yay, we're sisters and soul sisters of emotion and emotional holding patterns.
It probably is, because I often say to myself, why can't you feel joy? What's the matter with you?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And, that scenario you did in traffic where you're going to meet somebody and you forgot your cell phone, and the feeling I would get from that would be, I'm wrong, it's me, I'm at fault.
Anyone else have anything to say? Comments, thoughts? Okay. If not, we're going to end the call. And remember, I hope that we'll see you and hear you here in 2 weeks. And hopefully this is going to be up on YouTube, and you'll be able to listen to it on YouTube. Okay. Bye.
Bye, Ann.